Welcome to Conflict News 24. I am back with daily update on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Several important updates. Firstly, Zelensky is definitely leading his troops from the front. The man was on the most important front today, not far away from where fighting is ongoing. Secondly, a gas pipeline was blown up or it exploded in Russia today. The gas pipeline supplies gas to Europe via Ukraine. You know that supply of gas to Germany from Russia has been suspended because Nord Stream, a gas pipeline, was blown up under sea. This pipeline passes through Ukraine. It exploded as well. Thirdly, Ukraine, especially eastern Ukraine, is in the grip of energy deficit, crippling winter for Ukrainians. Russian attacks intensifying on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. And fourthly, on Wednesday, a key meeting is due to be held in Kremlin with participation of Putin, Russian president, and top defense ministry officials. Key announcements are expected. Firstly, about Zelensky, Ukrainian president, today visited a front line. These days, the most important front for Ukrainians and for Russians is Bakhmut. I've been updating you about Russian military's advance in eastern and southern directions of Bakhmut. Reportedly, industrial area of Bakhmut city in eastern part of Bakhmut has come under Russian control. To the south of Bakhmut as well, Russians have made some gains. They entered Opytne, they bypassed Opytne. So from eastern, southern, and to some extent from a northern side as well, Russians have been making small territorial gains. They're trying to encircle Bakhmut. Bakhmut, very strategic. If Bakhmut falls, Russians will definitely be eyeing Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. And Zelensky has been speaking about Bakhmut front recently. And today he arrived in Bakhmut. He was on the most important front today, not dozens of miles away from front line, maybe a few kilometers away from the front line, where fighting is ongoing. And some Ukrainian soldiers handed over Ukrainian flag to Zelensky. That flag be sent to US Congress as a sign of gratitude for US support for Ukraine. I remember in February when Russia attacked Ukraine, Russia tried to reach Kiev through offensive from Belarus and through airborne operations. Zelensky was told to leave Kiev, Ukraine capital. He was told to shift to western Ukraine. He rejected that proposal back then. And back then, fighting was very close to Kiev city. Even in the outskirts of Kiev, there was fighting between Ukrainian and Russian forces. But Zelensky did not leave Kiev. Ultimately, you saw that Russians had to withdraw from areas close to Kiev. And Ukraine defended Kiev. So he is known for leading his troops from the front. And that is why he arrived in Bakhmut city. A huge step, huge morale boosting for Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian military has an edge that its morale is high. Russians fighting, but their top brass is in Kremlin, Moscow. Shoigu visited the front lines, but he was around more than 50 kilometers away from actual front line. But Zelensky was right on front line in Bakhmut. So that is why he has managed to survive. He's managed to defend, though obviously entire Europe, NATO, US backing Zelensky. But Zelensky himself is leading from the front. We have a clip for you from Bakhmut when Zelensky arrived in Bakhmut city. Watch this clip.
Бійці, які тут сьогодні нагородили, написали нашим побратимам з Америки всі самі прекрасні слова. Прошу вас передати по можливості.
Ну, за зброю.
Так.
За зброю.
За зброю,
Добре, все передамо.
Дякую.
Secondly, we know that before the start of this conflict, Russia-Ukraine war, Europe was relying heavily on Russian gas. New pipelines were being built. Germany was getting 50% of its gas from Russia. And then a few months ago, Russia suspended almost all gas supplies to Germany when Nord Stream was blown up below sea in an attack. But gas supply to Europe from Russia through Ukraine was continuing. This is a gas pipeline which passes through Ukraine from Russia to Europe. But this pipeline was exploded today. It was blown up today. This pipeline is in Chuvashia. Chuvashia is in Russia. In Vernorsky district, Chuvashia zone is where this pipeline was blown up. At least one casualty is being confirmed. Repair work is being done. Is this an accident or a sabotage activity? It's not clear. Russians are silent, but they are confirming gas leakage. Gas supplies to Europe via Ukraine have been suspended. Gas prices going up in EU. Gas prices could increase further if this gas pipeline is not repaired. Russian media is reporting that repair work is underway, but no word on resumption of gas supply to Europe through Ukraine. Let's see. Russia has been using gas as a tool of war, tool of putting pressure upon Europe in this war. And this winter is a very testing winter for Europe. But somehow Europe is surviving, EU surviving. Though we have seen rise in gas prices in Europe, we have seen protests, gas rationing expected in some countries of Europe as well. People protesting against rising gas prices, but Europe somehow battling the consequences of suspension of Russian gas supply to Europe. If this second pipeline is not repaired, it could lead to further pressure upon gas demands in Europe. Thirdly, Ukraine is also facing energy deficit because of continuing Russian drone and airstrikes. We know that Russians are attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure, gas, especially power transmission lines, power stations are being hit. Kiev, Kharkiv, and other parts, almost all parts of central Ukraine are being hit by Russians in airstrikes and drone strikes. Especially kamikaze drones are being used by Russians to attack Ukraine's energy infrastructure. In the capital city of Ukraine, Kiev, electricity is not available round the clock. So you can imagine what is happening in other areas around, especially the east of Kiev. Definitely problems for Ukrainians this winter, testing winter, not only for Europe, but also for Ukraine. And lastly, on Wednesday, a key meeting is due to be held in Kremlin. Putin will have detailed discussions with Ministry of Defense officials. Sergei Shoigu will be there too, and top military officials too. Some key announcements are expected. What is Russia up to? Is going to intensify its operations in Donetsk. This is going to launch a new offensive from some other direction. That remains to be seen, but some key decisions are expected. And so far, Russian plan has not gone according to the plan. The plan of taking control of Kiev, of major towns and cities of Ukraine, has not gone according to the planning which was done before the start of this war. Yes, Russians had to revisit their plans several times in the past few months. Russia somehow wants to consolidate its gains, and which it has by withdrawing from Kharkiv, from Kherson, from parts of northern Donetsk. Russians have established new defense lines. And from here, they are now going to launch major offensives. But keeping in view winter, can Russians afford a major military offensive now? Will they try to just hold on to their gains and wait for the right time to strike a decisive blow, if they could, to Ukrainian defenses? Thank you for watching.